Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The IBF has released its latest rankings and Kubrat Pulev, the Bulgarian heavyweight, has the coveted top spot, and that's after months of the number one position being marked as not rated. And Pulev, of course, he's climbed into that position after his win over Hughie Fury in an IBF final eliminator, and that secured a title shot possibly for late 2019 or later. That's sort of dependent whether the WBO mandatory shot is next for Anthony Joshua. And by next I mean, is there a voluntary for April or is the WBO mandatory on the line? We just don't know yet, because from what we're hearing, the IBF mandatory is behind the WBO mandatory in the rotation of the sanctioning bodies, and that is for Joshua. He holds 3 belts. But this whole situation begs the question, if Kubrat Pulev is at least going to be waiting about a year for a shot, is he going to take another fight or two just to stay busy? I can't imagine, he's 37 at the moment, having another year out of the ring is going to do him any good. I mean, if he goes into a fight with Anthony Joshua off a year layoff, you'd have to wonder, is that ideal preparation? Although, having said that, Hughie Fury, that fight, Pulev was out of the ring for 18 months and he came into that, showed he still had some gas in the tank. Although Hughie Fury and Anthony Joshua, certainly they pose two distinctly different challenges. But Kubrat Pulev, he may just opt to sit, because obviously life-changing money, potentially life-changing fight, he may not want to risk it. But before I move on, I did want to bring in some very eyebrow-raising comments that Pulev made that have sort of passed the mainstream media by, and that's in relation to the Fury fight and the aftermath. Speaking to the website Boxing for All, Pulev stated Team Fury were not respectful in defeat. All the time, the week before the fight, during the fight itself, and even after, they did not stop playing dirty and behaving so damn cheap. I tried to be a good host. I did everything possible to keep the good tone. He then talked about a situation regarding extra seats being requested near his corner without permission, and possibly as a tactic to get in his head. Mentions the weigh-in, that they were deliberately looking for confrontation, and that they did not leave him alone for a second, as he put it. And then in what the website describes as an extraordinary outburst, Pulev states that their gypsy tricks did not stop even after he won, this time on doping control, just because the doctors who did the procedure speak Bulgarian, and after we finished they asked for a photo with me. Fury's side accused me of manipulation of the samples and that I had called my own people for the tests. If I have to summarize, constant gypsy tricks, small and annoying dirty games, and very, very cheap behavior. Still, I would like to point out that not all of them were so cheap. Some guys from the Fury's camp were pretty nice, and that was Kubrat Pulev's statements to Boxing for All, the website. And as you might imagine, some of these comments have gone down like a cup of cold sick with Team Fury. And in a right of reply article, the website spoke to Peter Fury, who stated, Pulev is a Bulgarian gypsy himself. That is what his people think he is. He would know all about gypsy tricks. I didn't know about the shenanigans at the time as I was with my fighter, but I've heard they were a complete shambles. Of course, we would want a rematch, but he will be fighting nobodies until he gets the AJ shot. He doesn't want a test like Fury. The loss will be a blessing in disguise. He's only 24. He will be back. Hopefully in March he will have another big fight. This whole thing about dirty tricks, it's a little bit like he said, she said, and maybe there was some gamesmanship from both sides here, because you may well recall in the day before the fight, Kugan Cassius of IFL TV on his social media reported that there was some sort of contractual issues that had sort of reared up. There was some unhappiness at the hotel. It was unclear exactly what was going on and what the sort of ramifications or, sort of issues relating to the contract were, and it was unclear what was going to happen. But ultimately the fight went ahead, and we all know what happened. Kubrat Pulev sort of ended up getting a pretty comfortable win over Hughie Fury, who looked rather limited in that fight. Clearly he had an eye injury, but he was relying on his right hand, and he's not a known power puncher. But of course we've heard from Team Fury that Fury's strategy went right out of the window, and he just tried to get Pulev out of there, but ultimately didn't work, didn't look good, and Pulev got the win. Anyway, I'll get back on track here with the rankings. So at number 2, the IBF, it's gone with its trusty old mate, not rated. And really, I've got no idea why they keep sticking with this whole not rated thing, but it is what it is. Number 3, we've got Ajit Kabial, who's up one spot. He takes the slot previously occupied by Hughie Fury. Kabial, he's had just the one fight this year, but it was an impressive stoppage win over Miljan Rovkanen. Kabial, he moves well for a big guy, his work rate is decent, and in that fight, he looked to really put it on Rovkanen. And a possible fight that's brewing now, that's in the works, is with Sweden's Otto Wallin, and Otto Wallin is currently at number 4 in the rankings. Wallin has been targeting this fight, and it's a very good one for fans if it does get made. The winner will confirm themselves as one of the better contenders in the division. Right now, these guys, they've had a couple of decent wins under their names, Wallin beating Adrian Granat and Ajit Kabial beating Derek Chisora, but they need to take that next step, and they can do that by fighting each other. So hopefully they do get that fight made. Derek Chisora, he's up one spot to 5th in the IBF rankings. And of course, Chisora, he's got a big fight coming up with Dillian Whyte, as we know, December the 22nd, 02, on pay-per-view. There is some talk that Chisora could be in line for a shot at Anthony Joshua should he manage to cause the upset. So it's certainly all there for Chisora. I wonder how much of that is really just sort of marketing hype. But certainly as a boxing fan, following this division really closely, if Joshua's fighting just twice in 2019, Chisora pulls up the upset against Whyte, it's not a fight that I want to see Joshua in. It would be a voluntary challenge after all. I wouldn't have so much of a problem if, Chisora wins the WBO mandatory spot. That's a different issue. But if it's just a voluntary challenge, I actually think there's better options out there for Anthony Joshua. If Deontay Wilder doesn't want the fight and Whyte's taken out by Chisora, there are some other options I'd rather see. But I would note there was quite a bit of support for a Derek Chisora and Anthony Joshua fight. And that was something that I was a little surprised at. There was quite a bit of support coming behind that, but certainly not something I would want to see. And it might be at this point you might be asking, well, where is Dillian Whyte in these rankings? So Whyte, Jarrell Miller, and Dominic Breazeale, they were all dropped from the rankings after turning their back on that IBF eliminator with Kubrat Pulev. And they can come back in, but they've got to wait 6 months before that happens. So Breazeale, his time, that will be certainly up now. He may just need to have a sanctioned fight to get back in the rankings. Miller and Whyte, they've still got some time to serve before they can be considered again. So when Eddie Hearn has recently said both Whyte and Miller are in the top 5 for the IBF, because he has been saying that, he's more than stretching the truth. It's just complete crap. But seemingly Whyte and Miller, they are pursuing other avenues to a title shot in other sanctioning bodies. At number 6, Adam Kanelski, the Polish-American heavyweight who recently beat Charles Martin to confirm himself as among a number of unbeaten and rising contenders. And he may only actually be 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. He's certainly being lined up for that WBC belt. He's well positioned. He's in the PBC stable. So if Deontay Wilder keeps winning, certainly there is an avenue for Kanelski there. I mean, there has been some chatter about setting a fight with Lucas Brown in 2019, and that would certainly be a fight that Kanelski would be favoured heavily to win. At 7, we've got Robert Helenius, who recently cleaned out Erkan Tepe with a brutal knockout. And Helenius, he's been giving Artis Bilkis some sparring work of late, helping him prepare for his fight with Marius Wach, but no word yet on Helenius' next step. At 8, Luis Ortiz, the Cuban southpaw, he's got an upcoming fight against Travis Kaufman on the Wilder and Fury undercard. It's not quite the fight fans would have wanted to see him in, but it does shape as a decent stay busy fight as Kaufman, he's tough, durable, but Ortiz should have too much for him. At 9, we've got Bryant Jennings, who recently beat Alexander Demetrenko. There is some talk that Jennings may fight in January or February, and possibly that Oscar Rivas could be the opponent. That's one of the names that's been mentioned, but nothing firm is currently in place. Tom Schwartz at number 10. He's got a fight scheduled on November 17th. His reported opponent is Christian Lewandowski. Schwartz has over 20 wins on his record. He's unbeaten. He's ranked highly elsewhere, number 2 in the WBO, so it's going to be interesting. What are they going to do with this guy in 2019? Who is he going to step up against? Because he does have what appears to be quite a padded record at this stage. Number 11, we've got Hughie Fury. Not much to say about his recent disappointing showing against Kubrat Pulev. His trainer and father Peter Fury says his son will be back out in March and hopefully for a big fight. I'm interested to see, is Fury going to hold on to his domestic title that he's got, the British title, but also is he going to work through some of that domestic level opposition? There is some domestic level fights to be had in the UK at the moment for him, and certainly maybe he needs a year or two to rebuild. He's certainly got time on his side at 24. Alexander Povetkin, he's at 12. The Russian is not expected to fight again until April. 13, Bogdan Dinu. He will be having his first fight of 2018 on November 17th when he challenges Jarrell Miller in Kansas. And that's going to be a tough fight for Dinu, and not many are really picking the unbeaten prospect to win. Certainly I'm not. I think he's got good skills, but this might be a stretch too far. He hasn't had some of those interim step-ups, but then again, we just don't really know where he's at because he's been so inactive and he's been fighting virtual cream puffs most of his career. Oscar Rivas is at number 14. He's next scheduled to be in the ring on December 1st on the undercard of Adonis Stevenson's next fight. His listed opponent at this stage is an unbeaten 26-0 Brazilian Fabio Maldonado, who's 38 years old and has 25 of his 26 wins by knockout, although the record certainly looks extremely padded. You could have a sleep on that. And to round out the IBF top 15, Vladimir Klitschko. No, I'm just kidding. Andy Ruiz Jr., he occupies that final spot, but it's unclear when his next fight will be. And it's actually unclear what his promotional arrangements or promotional status currently is. There is some chatter that he's not with Top Rank anymore, but I haven't really seen Ruiz Jr. comment publicly on the situation. What do you make of it all? That's the top 15. I actually think it's a reasonably decent 15, and when you consider three guys, Brazil, Miller and White, they could be coming back in soon with their 6-month sort of ban for dropping that eliminator. They could be coming back in. It's actually a decent looking 15 overall. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.